Here we go with Ecos. First continent. Eco. You know, I keep thinking of that Dolphin PlayStation game, but anyway, I digress. Here we go. Ecos, first continent. What if the formation of Earth had gone differently? In Ecos, players are forces of nature, as if Jess isn't already, creating the planet together, but with competing visions of its grandeur. You will have the chance to mold and create a part of the world similar but different to the one we know. Which landscapes, habitats, and species thrive will be entirely up to you. All right, so we have 3 of the tableaus, as you can see in front of the 3 players out there. Mine will be on the tableau cam so that you guys, at least during the teach, so you guys can actually kind of see everything in detail. But what are y'all looking at out here? Well, first off, we have the map tiles, and the game actually comes with suggested setups and various things that we can do, but it's going to start with 1 grassland tile, 1 desert tile, and 2 water or ocean tiles out there as well. We also have some trees and a mountain out there just to be able to lay out for some potential examples as we go along. Then we have the various map tiles over here. I want to point out that the water tiles are double-sided, whereas the desert and grassland are opposites depending on what side is facing up. Obviously, we have a supply of trees and a supply of mountains. There are a couple different shapes of mountains. That's just for aesthetics. They're no different one from the other. This bag, the bag of mystery, contains element tiles. There are 40 different element tiles. This is just a selection of some of the 40 element tiles that are going to be in the bag that we're going to be randomly drawing out of there. Over on the left-hand side, we have the score track, which, as you can see, well, you couldn't, Andrew was off camera, but there we go. We have the score track that goes up to 100. May be able to loop around. I do want to point out the 60 and the 80 over there. The 60 is marked with a little rising sun, could be done for a shorter game. We're not playing that version. We're playing the regular game, which the game will end at the 80-point mark. Then over here on the right-hand side, we have the energy cubes and the storage container, which actually is punch out, and you actually build these little containers. They have cool little lids that actually fit in for those. And then we have the animal tiles or animal tokens and the storage containers, which also have handy dandy little lids that will be able to slide in, and actually has done a really good job of keeping everything where it should be. So well done there. So that's what everything you're looking at on for the quote unquote main board, if you will. But over here, this is everybody's tableau. Now, everyone starts, or everyone has 1 dial. Sorry, we were going through an example earlier. Where everyone has 1 dial here in their player color. Then they have a set of 12 cards of a set. You'll notice the elephant footprint. I'm playing the elephant set. Why? Well, duh. All right. And I have a little elephant token. Not for any reason, but just to show you guys what the animal tokens look like when they're on the board. And they have these little markings on them as well that show what type of habitat what type of tile that they can reside in. Obviously, you can't put an elephant in the ocean. Okay, they can swim, but still, you don't do that, okay? Everyone has, like I said, a hand of 12 cards, 3 of which have a darker symbol on it than the other ones, so you can see the difference between a hand card and a starting card there. So that's what everyone has, as well as 7 energy tokens to begin with, okay? All right. So that is all of the components that are in the game, but now let's go ahead and give an overview of how you play the game. So there's no turns per se in this game. What's going to happen is whoever the first player is the harbinger.
Sounds ominous.
Seriously,
It's well done.
Did y'all coordinate that?
Yeah, they were waiting.
The first player is the harbinger. What does that mean? They're the lucky ones that get to draw out of the bag. They're going to draw 1 element at a time that look like this. And I'm really, really excited to see what these symbols get called as we go throughout the game. It's going to be a lot of fun and entertaining, I think. Now, these elements that are in there are 40 of them total. There is not in equal distribution. And in fact, let me show you guys, this is the distribution of the various tiles that are in there. There are 10 sun, there are 8 water, there are 6 grass, there are 5 fish eggs.
Those are fish eggs. Yeah.
Okay, go with it. There are 4 like kelp or seaweed. There are 3 concentric circles. There are 2 animal or deer looking ones. And then there are the 2 wilds. Okay? All that matters are the symbols on these. A player is going to draw one, the Harbinger is going to draw 1 tile at a time. When they do, they're going to announce, or they'll set down the tile on the board, and they're going to go ahead and say, hey, I got a water tile. Then every player is going to have a choice of 2 different things that they can do with that draw. So first off, they can take one of their energy tokens and go ahead and put it on one of the storage spaces on a card out here that matches that on the left-hand side of a card. So you'll see if somebody drew the water, I could, if I want, go ahead and take one and put it on there. Easy enough. My other option in lieu of doing so is to rotate my dial 1 clockwise. Those are your 2 options. That's it. Okay? Then once everyone has done that, the Harbinger is going to draw another tile, so on and so forth. Now before we go into the next part of this, I want to actually go over one of these cards, the card anatomy, if you will, in detail. So taking a look at these cards, on the left-hand side we have obviously the energy cube spots, as I just discussed. Then there's a little color band over here that you can see. They're either green or red, and if you take a look here, like at Justice Tableau has 2 green and 1 red. The reason for that is the green ones tend to be more static in adding to things and being beneficial, whereas the red ones tend to be, it can destroy or change parts of the landscape. Just know that as a big picture type thing, okay? Getting back to the card anatomy, every card has a number in the bottom left-hand corner, as well as the number of use icons. Now this took us a little bit getting used to, I'm going to be honest. The number of leaves right here is 2 sets of 2, so that is 4 leaves, meaning this card can be activated a total of 4 times, whereas this one only has 3 leaves on the top, so it can only be activated 3 times. When you activate it, and I'm going to go over the details of that shortly, you're going to clear all these off and you're going to rotate the card physically, and it shows how many activations there are. And eventually, it's going to rotate to where there's only 1 lonely leaf at the top. When that card activates, it's going to do its thing, and then it's going to leave the game permanently. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, easy enough. Also at the bottom are preset hand icons. So there are animal and there are different plants. So you can start with either set if you want, just for a little added variety. Again, I'm going with the elephants, okay? And obviously in the middle of the card are going to be the card effects. When we resolve these card effects, it's going to be important that you must go top to bottom. Okay, and I want to point out this arrow here. Most of the cards are going to have this arrow at the very top. What that arrow means is that when you resolve that card, it is imperative that you do so the arrow first. If you cannot completely activate the arrow stuff that is on there, then you cannot do the rest of the card. Does that make sense? All right, so that is important. So the arrow placement effects, you must resolve all of the placement effects, whereas, and I'm going to show you guys one of Jess's cards real quick, it actually isn't the first one. So what that means is going top to bottom, you're going to resolve here, then you must be able to do this, and then you can do that. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, good. Moving on. You guys actually understand, I would argue, 90% of the game. So the Harbinger is going to draw a tile, announce what the tile is. People are either going to place a energy cube out on the board on one of their cards, or they're going to rotate their dial. Okay? However, when somebody, and we'll go ahead and do like so. when, let's say that, and these do not have to be filled top to bottom, it could be in any order, etc. If somebody said, whoever the harbinger is, says grass, whoever completes a card, and it may be multiple players on the same tile draw, they have to announce,
Eco.
thank you, and that means, hey, I'm going to have to, before we draw another tile, activate my card. And this happens in clockwise order from the harbinger, okay? So in this case, what the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to clear the card off, and we're going to put the cubes at the top of the card to remind us what card is activating. Then try and do top to bottom. So this says go ahead and place one tile out on the world. Now placing a tile, it must share one side of any existing tile. Pretty simple. And this says either a grassland or a desert, so easy enough. I could place it here, I could place it there, wherever I want to place it out here on the board. Then when I do so, gain one wild element out here per adjacent grassland. So obviously it would behoove me to place next to multiple grasslands. Okay? There you go. Then after that, I'm going to rotate the card. If it already had the one leaf at the top, we would just discard the card. Easy enough. And I'm not going to go through the details of everything else. The only other thing you need to know regarding the cards are this little squiggly line here represents victory points. The first one to 80 triggers the end of the game, okay? The last thing that I'm going to go over before we get started is your dial. So I said in lieu of placing a energy cube out here, you can rotate your dial clockwise 1. If you rotate it again, when you do so, you may immediately do exactly what it says, or you can wait to rotate it one more to do exactly what it says on the next side. So we'll go over these in order. You may gain a card, then rotate this back to start. So gain a card, and then there. Easy enough. You might be asking yourself, how do I gain a card? Well, there are 2 decks of cards up there. There are obviously the blue deck and kind of the brownish deck, as you can see. Now, they're slightly different. The blue cards tend to be more victory point based, and the brown cards tend to be more concerned with setting the map up, putting things on the map, whether it's animal tiles, mountains, trees, or actual tiles themselves, okay? When you can gain a card, you draw any mix of 2 tile cards that you want, choose one, discard the other, okay? After the first player has done so, and it could be 2 blue, 2 brown, 1 of each, whatever, whichever one they do not choose, they discard face up. And it's going to become a bit of a tableau out here for players to be able to choose one of the face-up cards in lieu of drawing 2 random or mystery meat cards and discarding one. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, good. I don't need to go any further with that. We can move on. So gaining cards. And there is no hand size. So you can end up with a huge hand of cards by the end of the game that were good in theory that didn't really do anything for you. I say this maybe from experience. So this says you may gain 1 energy cube or play a card and then rotate it to start. Now, you're limited to 7 energy cubes. If you have all 7 out here and you need to place another one, well, you either rotate your dial in lieu of that or you take a cube off and place it onto whatever the new space is, okay? Whereas here, this is one of the main ways you're going to gain energy cubes. This is also going to be almost exclusively the way you're going to play cards to add more cards into your tableau, is by rotating your dial here to this side, then playing a card from your hand of cards, and then you reset this back to the start. First one to get to 80 wins. Whoever has the most points wins. Go ahead.
When you get to 80, it's like the last round.
It is the last round, correct. You finish the
draw.
The harbinger's draw. Now, I did say that that player is the harbinger, and there is an unequal or an unequal distribution of tiles. There are 2 wilds. The harbinger stops being the harbinger when they draw one of the 2 wilds. All that means is
the bag passes.
there you go, and we're going to throw all the tiles back in. Okay? Any questions? Good. Easy enough? Let's get going.